Hey folks, it's Jennifer. Thanks for stopping by. Today's video shows a fun technique that creates a faux texture look using ink. And also I'm going to show you a peek at the new mini distress ink colors. Some new colors have come out. And I'm going to show you also how I store my mini distress inks. Now if you look at the flowers and leaves here, you'll see a fun texture to it. That's what we're going to do today. It's very easy to do. Now I need to warn you, something was wrong with my video camera when I filmed this. And the colors and the images are kind of wonky, but please forgive me. I just didn't want to skip out on showing the video so that you could see how this was created. So I apologize in advance. Now as I mentioned, I will also show you a look at some of the new distress ink colors that come in the mini size and also how I store them. This is really a great way to store them, and if you don't have many of the distress inks, this is a great solution for you. So let's go ahead and get started with the project. Again, I'm sorry the color's so off on the video here. I apologize. I have a piece of white cardstock that's 3.5 by 4.25, and I have a stencil from Penny Black. Now I have this sticky post-it tape that I'm just going to punch circles from. Now you could cut shapes if you want to. This circle punch was just quick. I just wanted some small pieces of this sticky tape to use in masking, which you'll see in a little bit why I did the circles. It was just quick and easy to do. So now I'm going to go ahead and tape my white cardstock to my work surface. This is just Nina white cardstock, but any cardstock would work. And I'm going to take my stencil and tape it into place exactly where I want it positioned over the white cardstock. I'm again using that sticky tape to hold it in place. If you don't have this kind of sticky tape, you could use painter's tape or washi tape too. Now before we get into the inking, I wanted to give you a look at the mini distress inks. There are 24 little cubes that are now available, and they're packs of 4, so there's 6 different packs, and 3 are being released today. So there's all these new colors now. These little ink cubes are fantastic because it's an economical way to get a lot of colors, and there's a lot of ink in these. Now I found a fun way to store them. I'm always looking for good storage solutions. These are great. These are actually little sandwich boxes, and I'll have a link below in my YouTube description and on my blog. I need to buy a third one for the browns, so I don't have my browns in a little container yet, but this is how I plan to store them. I can put in there 9 of my ink cubes, and I could put in an ink blending tool, the mini round one, and then some extra little foam replacements for all the inks in that box. So this is a great way to kind of grab and go. These little ink cubes also stack if you wanted to store them that way, but I kind of like having them so I can see the lid. And this is just a really easy way to grab and go and store them. Now there's enough little ink or little foam replacements here for all the different colors in the container. However, you don't have to have a different color for each or different foam for each color. I just prefer it that way because I like to keep my colors true. I just wanted to show you how I store these. I think this is a great solution, so maybe you have a container that would work for you. Now for this project, I'm going to use some of the small ones here. I'm using Barn Door, Picked Raspberry, and Spice Marmalade to add color to the flowers. I'm going to do a mix of these, and I'm using those little mask circles to mask off the area that will be green. So I want to mask off all the leaves and stems. Now I'm going in with my little ink blending tool and adding just touches of the 3 different colors. So I end up with like a coral color when I'm done. I love the mini ink blending tools and distress inks because they blend so nicely together and you get really nice depth to your color. Now you'll see that I'm using little circle masks because it's easy to kind of get in and cover up the different areas here, but you could just use pieces of tape if you wanted to. I just thought this was quick and easy to do. So I'm adding some pink and then some red and then some orange to each of these flowers. Now you could use the full-size mini or full-size distress inks for this, but I really think the mini are fun and convenient, and I'm really impressed with how much ink these little guys have packed in there. So if you don't have all the distress inks, this is a great solution for you, and it's also an easy thing that you can just grab and go. Now for this, you could use other types of inks. I like the distress inks for many reasons. One is it reacts with water, which we're not doing in this video, but I have many other videos that show that. But also these blend so well together. So it's a great ink for inking over a stencil because they blend so beautifully together. Also these ink blending tools work really well with these inks. Now I'm using the mini ink blending tools. I like the small round size. I just think it's very convenient. But you could use the original ink blending tool, which is a little bit larger and rectangle, if you wanted to. So now you'll see I'm going through and inking up all of the flowers and just kind of covering any of the areas around it as I go, just so that I can keep the color true to just the flowers and not to the stems and leaves that are around it. Now another great thing about these mini-sized distress inks, and I'll link here to another video that shows how to use them, is that since they're smaller, it's easier to go direct to paper. So say you want to take this ink pad and just go direct to paper, it's much easier. I'm not doing that in this video, but that is another advantage of them. So now that I've got my flowers done, I'm going to go ahead and clean it off with a baby wipe and then a dry cloth, and then put it back down. I don't want any of that ink on the stencil to rub in with the green ink that we're about to apply. So I'm cleaning it off and taping it back lined up with the original flowers. So now I have two of the mini green distress ink colors. I've got peeled paint and mowed lawn. Those are my two favorite greens anyways. And I'm going to apply this to the stems and leaves. So I've covered up my flowers here. I'm going down and just quickly applying a mowed lawn, which is my favorite of all the greens, to the whole stem and all of the leaves. And then I'm going to go back with the peeled paint, which is a little bit deeper and darker, and putting some color just towards the inside edges of all the leaves. You can see I'm not taking any care to really make this perfect. These inks really take care of themselves and do a lot of the work for you. So this is really quick and easy to do. So now that I'm done with the inking, I'm just going to take off the stencil, and you could stop right here if you wanted to and have this soft look of flowers, but I decided I wanted to add this faux texture look. If you look closely at the flowers and leaves, you see kind of like a grid pattern over them. This is so fast to do, and it's just a great way to kind of add a little oomph to your stenciling. So now I'm putting my stencil back down. I've cleaned it off, and I'm putting it back down right in place, and I have the screen. This is a screen from Dreamweavers. It's kind of soft plasticky as opposed to like a stiff metal kind of screen, but I'm sure you could use something from Home Depot if you really wanted to head there. But these little Dreamweaver screens, there's a few of them in the pack, and they're great for using with stencils. So what I'm going to do is cover up my leaves. I could have done this step as I went along, by the way. It would have saved me some time. But I'm going to go ahead and put the screen right over it, and I'm taking my barn door red ink and just dabbing some firmly over it, and look at that texture print you get through it. Now notice I didn't have to go and get more ink for my ink blending tool, because these foams store that ink in the ink blending tool, which is fantastic. So you can always go back and just grab it and do quick inking without even having to get out the ink pad. I bet you could grab all different types of materials and ink through them over your stencil, but I really like this screen. I think it adds just great texture, very quick and easy to do, and I plan to be using it quite a bit. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the leaves. I'm not going to worry so much for the stems because they're so thin, but just for the leaves I'm going in with some of the darker peeled paint and mowed lawn and just adding a little touch of it over the leaves. And I just love the results of this. It just adds some the fun look of texture, but I still have a one layer card. Okay, so now that I've finished this up, I realized that there were kind of some areas where I didn't get the stems real well. That's part of the stencil, and that bugs me because I'm kind of weird that way. So I'm just going in with a distress marker that matches and filling it in, but you could use a color pencil or marker. So let's go ahead and finish off this card. Now for this, I wanted to have a touch of black and white on here just to contrast it. So you see I created that black and white striped strip along the side, and then I also inked the edge of my note card. Let's go ahead and first do that black and white strip. I have this Impression Obsession background stamp. This is one of my favorites. You can tell it gets used a lot. I'm just inking up with some black ink, and I'm going to stamp it onto a piece of white cardstock. Now I am stamping more than I need, but that's okay. I'm going to save the rest of it for future cards. I love little black and white strips to put on a card like this, so now I'll have some for the future. So I'm just really rubbing this to make sure that all my ink transfers onto the paper, and then from this I can cut a thin strip. Now I went ahead and did extra because this is no fun to clean up, so might as well do extra while I have it out and clean. So here I am, I'm just going to trim off that excess, and I'm just going to cut a strip that's a little wider than I need for this card. I'm going to actually adhere this to the back left edge of my stamped piece here, or my inked piece, just so that it peeks out a little bit. Now when I did this, I noticed that there was a little bit of ink on my card over here. Now I would never start a card over, so I just take my craft knife and gently scratch the ink away and then use a eraser to smooth it out. This is a great trick for removing ink that you may get in an area you don't want it. Just little touches of ink, maybe like a fingerprint, you can clear off that way. I'm going to keep this the stamped greeting simple. I have this new stamp set from Avery Elle. I love these fantastic kind of scripty greetings. I'm going to stamp hello with my favorite Hero Arts black dye ink and keep it very simple. Now when I did this, I decided I wanted to add some red to the edge of my note card, but I wanted to have the textured effect that we have on the flowers, so I wanted it to match. This is another reason why I like distress inks, because you can ink up a background too. I'm going to put some of that sticky tape along the back side of my card so I don't get any ink on it when I'm doing this technique. And now I'm just going to not very well apply some picked raspberry, barn door, and spice marmalade inks to the edge here. It doesn't need to be done well because we are putting so much ink on, I'm not really looking for it to be perfectly blended. And I'm going to cover up most of this with my stenciled piece. But I'm just going to quickly apply some color here, adding lots. And again, I'm sorry about the video. It looks a lot more vibrant here than it is in real life. Now I'm going to go ahead and add that texture to it, so I'm holding the screen in place, and I'm just taking some of that barn door ink and just pressing it in random places through the screen. I just want little areas of that screen look to it. So there we have the edge of our card that will perfectly match the flowers that we've done. So I just took some phone tape and added that to the card. Very easy to do. Before we wrap up, I wanted to mention that if you head over to my blog, I have a giveaway of some of the newest of these mini distress ink pads. So if you want to get your hands on some, there's a chance. And if you're interested in any of the products I used in this video, you can check the YouTube description below or head over to my blog. I hope you enjoyed this way to get the look of texture with your inking and also a peek at the mini distress inks. Thanks so much for stopping by and hope to see you again soon.